Hi. As many of you know, the great cycle of the Jewish holidays begins with Passover, the Exodus from Egypt, and then continues 7 weeks later with Shavuot, the giving of the Torah at Sinai, and concludes with Sukkot, which commemorates both the wandering in the desert and the fall harvest. So there's that archway of Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. Another cycle, a little bit less known, that runs in the Jewish calendar is from Tisha B'Av, which we commemorate later this week, Wednesday night and Thursday, to Rosh Hashanah, 7 weeks. Tisha B'Av, as you know, commemorates the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, the first temple in 586 BCE, and the second temple in 70 CE. The rabbis of old also say that a whole bunch of other tragedies happened to the Jewish people on that date. The expulsion from England in the 13th century, the expulsion from Spain in 1492, various massacres associated with the Crusades, and some horrible events associated with the Holocaust. We could look at this time we're in right now as a uniquely cursed time, or we might understand this repetition of terrible events on Tisha B'Av as the catastrophes that will keep recurring in our lives until we get things right, until we learn from our mistakes. Tragedies that occur personally and collectively. Tisha B'Av, 7 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, marks the moment when we start to turn toward God, when we begin the process of tshuva, return, which is the essential gesture of this season, to move toward at-one-ment, reconciliation with God. Now, I realize that reconciliation with God is kind of like a big idea, maybe not so comfortable in your lexicon. I think about it as the opportunity to get clear in ourselves again, to recenter our lives, to align ourselves with our purpose in this world, with what we're doing and why we're doing it, to realign ourselves with the people we love, with our family members, with our community, to begin to come back to center. Tisha B'Av takes place at this moment in time, at the height of summer, when actually the sap is running at its full in the trees before it begins to turn, before it begins to fall. And all that is part of a natural process of fullness, decline, destruction, and renewal and rebuilding that occurs over and over again in the natural world and in our lives. On Tisha B'Av, the walls of the temple come down. The walls that we work so hard to keep up. The walls of our personality, our identity. I am a rabbi. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am an American citizen. And we break down the walls of those identities so we can see the truth that's under them, the feelings that need to be heard, the things that need to be confronted. I want to conclude with some words from Rabbi Alan Liu, one of my favorite teachers of this time. He writes, Tisha B'Av has a few questions for us. Where are we? What transition point are we standing at? What is causing sharp feeling in us, disturbing us, knocking us a little off balance? Where is our suffering? What is making us feel bad? What is making us feel at all? How long will we keep the walls up? How long will we furiously defend against what we know deep down to be the truth of our lives? Will we turn? Will we let the walls of our psyche fall with the great walls of the temple? Will we let in the truth we have been walling out all year long, and let this truth help us to stop making the same mistakes again and again? Will we let this moment of consciousness help us break the unconscious momentum of our lives? Will we move from a state of siege to a state of openness, to a state of truthfulness, especially with ourselves? What might we see as a result? What deep wellspring would suddenly become apparent to us? What pattern would we see ourselves repeating? What larger gesture would we see about to complete itself in our lives? What do we need to embrace? This is the journey from Tisha B'Av to Rosh Hashanah that we begin now and journey over these next 7 weeks. And I'll be speaking to you once a week, accompanying you on this journey.